Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday morning. Thank goodness. I almost thought it was Wednesday. That would not have been fun. But we're here to do another PPR 12 team mock draft. Fellas, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
What's going on, brother?
Not much, not much. All right. So basic team setup. There is a second flex, so it's two running backs, two receiver, two flex, tight end, and then I think there are four bench. Just keeping it a little bit short, but yeah, nothing crazy. PPR. Let's get this thing moving.
Let's get after it.
I like
All
it.
right.
This is
Mike's drafting from pick 3. I'm at pick 7, and Zach's all the way wrapping us up in at pick 12. So, without further ado, let me start.
man. This is it, man. Most drafts are going to be happening this weekend. It's time to lock it in.
Yeah, it's a big draft weekend.
Oh yeah, and this weekend, next weekend, and then maybe some weekday ones, which are no fun because that just means they're going to be online, and it's just not the same. um, 3 spot here. This is very interesting. I don't have the spot in many leagues, but if I did, I'm definitely going to fade what everybody else is thinking with the Derrick Henry pick there. That's not something I'm jumping on at 3. I would probably pivot, and I'd probably go with one of my receivers here. So I'm going to go ahead and take J. Jeff and then keep it moving.
Love it. I know Jefferson's a great pick. I honestly probably would have gone Henry. I think the pace that he was on last year before he got hurt was insane. So I love that. And I probably would have gone with him even in PPR and even Eckler. I don't know. I like those two guys a little bit more than Jefferson, especially with the top 3 pick. But Jefferson, I feel like you can't go wrong with. Then I'm sitting here basically choosing between these top 2 backs that are available between Dalvin Cook and Najee Harris. I feel like for both of them, it's just a big. They're going to get their workload. I'm going to go with Dalvin though. I think he's going to be in the better offense, so that's basically the deciding factor for me. I think they're both going to kind of have the same amount of touches, but Cook's in the better offense.
So sitting here at the 12th pick, one of the best scenarios that I think for the first and second turnaround came true for me, and that's Joe Mixon sliding all the way to the 12th pick. I love Joe Mixon, especially as a first round value. And then right immediately, I'm looking at a couple guys in Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb. I love the receiving upside this year. But in this specific format that we're drafting, 2 receivers, 2 flexes, I don't particularly value receiver as heavily as I do in Mike's, say, our home league, where we have 3 starting wide receivers. So I tend to draft those a little bit differently. So I'm actually going to prioritize running back. And a guy that I absolutely love is still here, and that's Deandre Swift. So I'm going to start my draft off with Mixon and Swift 1-2.
That is such a dangerous duo that I constantly see happening. I have quite a bit of shares of both Swift and Mixon, just starting those off with that 1-2 combo in drafts.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I love that start. I'm sitting here. Let's see. Ooh. I love Tyreek Hill and Deebo Samuel this year, but not enough to really take them where they're going. Not right here, at least. Mostly because I still love a lot of the running backs going right here. But I'm going to jump. I'm going to take Saquon Barkley. Again, it's a workload guy. We know what he's capable of. And I think everything we've seen is that he's in for a huge season. And he's going to get the ball a lot, and he's feeling healthy, which is all I need to hear, and maybe some Saquon. And I see Zach and I both started running back.
Yeah, I love it. Both you guys got basically 4 running backs there that could have that top 10 potential. And I wanted to make a point to Mixon really quick as well. the fact that he has been going in the first round every single year, and then this year when he finally gets a revamped offensive line on a Super Bowl uh, contender, like that's just great value to get him at the last pick there. Um,
And it's funny, Mike, because it feels like he's going later this year than he typically goes. Like I feel like he's usually somewhere around that 7 or 8 mark, and this year we see him sliding back to the 11 and 12. And
right.
he's poised to have probably one of his best seasons this year. It's amazing how ADP kind of works.
Yeah, and usually you'll see your typical running back heavy first round. I think this year
Momo, come here.
with Jamar Chase in the mix, and then guys like Adams and even Diggs possibly, that really makes it hard in the first round this year. And I think that's why you're seeing Mixon fall a little bit. But other than that, I mean, it's warranted. All the backs that went before him should have went before him. He did go in a perfect spot. The only other thing I could see is maybe Adams moving to the end, if not the early second round. Same with Diggs, like right around there. But yeah, I love it there. For my pick here, I have J. Jeff. I don't want to leave without a running back in the second round if I do start wide receiver like that. So I'm going to pivot and I'm going to take Lenny as my number one back there and hope for another one on the way back. All right. Kind of got robbed a little bit, but that's what you would expect. I'm going to take the last back that I have in this tier, in this my famous 2B tier here. And I'm going to take James Conner on the way back.
So you would go Fournette over Javonte Williams?
I would. I would strictly because I feel like that Tampa Bay team is really going to be hurting offensive line wise this year. And I think Brady is not going to sit back there and take a punishment. So I think Lenny will see the same type of PPR volume, if not more than he did last year when he kind of like evolved to that pass catching back. So I have total faith. Obviously, this is one of those backs that I would look to handcuff a little bit later on with Rashad White, just in case there. But I do like Lenny. I like what he did last year, and I think it's going to be, like I said, more passing volume for him this year.
So now, Mike, let me jut in quick, and Kyle, I'll keep this brief so you can make your pick. And it still applies to you as well, Kyle. But I see Josh Allen is sliding here. And Mike, you had an opportunity in the third round here, obviously in the second round as well. And Kyle, you have an opportunity in the third round. At what point does Josh Allen slide to where you seriously have to consider him? Like, Mike, did it cross your mind at all or no?
So not in the third round.
Okay.
For me personally, I have Justin Herbert finishing as basically my number one, right next to Josh Allen. I don't think the difference between the two of them is going to be that big at all. So for me, I wouldn't want to start the QB run in the early third. I would look to maybe start it at the end of the third, early fourth, but that's just me personally. I like the running backs and receivers in the first 3 rounds a little bit better than I do reaching for a quarterback because, like I said, I could go for one, but I think the other one's going to finish right next to him.
Okay.
I don't think we're going to see Mahomes be the first quarterback taken. Most likely that might be a Josh Allen spot at the 3-5 there. But yeah, me personally, I would be a little bit scared to start him. So yeah.
Okay.
It was weird. It auto picked me, but on my screen it didn't show. Time was up, but I was auto picked the guy I was going to take. So I'm thankful.
Okay.
But yes, I was considering Josh Allen. I think mid to late third round for Allen is kind of the sweet spot for him. So
so that's where
yeah.
Oh, what? I have my mic muted. I'm so sorry. I didn't know that. Sorry about that. Clearly my mute button doesn't work on my mic. I'm sorry.
But yeah, Josh Allen, I think mid to late third is kind of the sweet spot because right around there, it's like almost like I'd rather wait until probably the fourth round to get who typically falls there, Justin Herbert.
Right.
But instead, no, I like Josh Allen a lot this year. I feel like he's undoubtedly going to be a top tight end, or I said tight end because he took Pitts, but be a top quarterback. And so I'm snagging him there. But I really like him a lot this year. But go for it, Zach. Let's hear it.
All right. Well, first off, quick experiment. All right, because my audio input was coming from my computer, so you can hear me. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I apologize to the microphone. It was not the microphone's fault. It was my own fault. All right. All right. So yeah, I went with Pitts here. Kyle, Kyle and Mike, we've talked about Pitts this past week, and we all love him. His upside is kind of growing as the season's going on, and I think people are remembering how athletic he is. He's just this gigantic, nimble wide receiver body that plays a position that you don't typically find that at. So he's, as we all affectionately refer to him as, he's a unicorn. And in the fact that he is going to stretch the field, he's going to contest for deep balls, he's going to be a red zone presence. He is the complete package when it comes to receiver. So I love Kyle Pitts, especially in a PPR format. Now, obviously, that does put me at a little bit of a detriment at the wide receiver position. But these rounds 4, 5, and 6 here are some of my favorite rounds when it comes to picking up those mid-tier wide receivers that I think really have strong upside, like our consensus, my guy here, Michael Pittman Jr. So I really like the start that I have going on here. I rarely have drafted from the 12th spot, but if the cards fall and I could end up with a roster like this, I'm very happy with it already. So go ahead, Kyle.
That's a banging start to a draft. I mean, you got my guy, Kyle Pitts, and you got our guy, and Michael Pittman. And then you got two of the best running backs that you can get at the 1-2, kind of in the 1-2 turn area. I'm jealous, but I love it. And at least you're not teammate going with the 0 RB strategy. Because,
that is bold.
I really love the receivers he's got, or it. I'm not going to gender a robot, but that. But it's a good start, but it's bold because a lot of these running backs moving late, I personally don't feel comfortable having as my RB1.
But it is a strategy in itself because all four of those receivers are going to be starting for him. Like that. That's definitely one of the things I hate is when, people might start with 3 wide receivers and then automatically they're taking a fourth that's going to go on their bench, where that's not doing you any good in round 4, where you could be getting the upside in a guy like Montgomery or ETN or even just like a Breece Hall, people like that. Who, they might not be great at running, they might not be your first running back option, but they're at least going to hop in and help your roster immediately.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially with 2 flex. He's got his flex and 2 receiver options taken right away. But I'm looking at receiver. I need one. And I kind of like the next little mini group of guys that are sitting here. And he may be, I'll show it on the screen here. He's the 5th receiver still available, but I'm going to jump. I'm taking Cortland Sutton. I really like his potential this year with Russell Wilson in the offense. I think he's going to be the number 1 receiver in Denver this year. And because of that, I think whoever the receiver 1 is in Denver is going to smash. So he's going to ball out. And I think that's Sutton. And to have him as my receiver 1 is where I'm super comfortable with. And probably the last of that tier that I'm comfortable with as somebody for my receiver 1.
I like that. Yeah, not bad picks at all, guys. I love this is that gold wide receiver kind of tier here that I really love. I also wanted to point out as well, I absolutely love the Pitts pick. I don't think in most leagues he's going to make it to the back of 312, especially Kittle definitely should not and will not, I don't think, be going before Pitts. What do you guys think on that?
I don't know. I mean, it's all preference. You got guys who didn't have Kittle last year who probably really like Kittle. And you have guys who had Kittle 2 years ago who really like Kittle and don't have a lot of trust in still the new rookie in an offense that is looking kind of bad in Atlanta. So I can understand. I feel like at that point, it's all personal biases and their history with the tight end position and why they might go Kittle. But personally, yeah, I'd go Pitts over Kittle.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I could see a world where even maybe Darren Waller creeps above Kyle Pitts if people aren't ready to trust the rookie in a bad offense, or I'm sorry, the second year in a bad offense. Same with Kittle. I could see Kittle creeping above him like this, but I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, Mike. I'm betting that Kyle Pitts will be the third guy off the board.
Yeah.
Right. And then real quick there for my pick, I had 2 running backs and J. Jeff, who's my number 1 receiver there. So I went another receiver. I went Deontay. I like Deontay compared to guys like Waddle and Metcalf, kind of in that tier there. So I went ahead and snagged him before I couldn't anymore. And then on the turnaround pick, I really did like the bunch of running backs still there. So at this point, I did get my flex or one of my flexes, and that's going to be JK. I think JK is going to have a slow start to the year, but I think in the end, he'll be that consistent running back I can kind of rely on to not have any dud weeks going forward. So I kind of like that as my first flex there. So that's why I went with JK.
Yeah, I love that a lot. I like JK. I think he's gonna have a fine year. He may be still a little bit hurt, but I think that's just gonna take a few weeks, probably just to even get back into his groove. But I think like week 3 on, he's gonna be a league winner.
Definitely.
And I am taking Mike Williams. I think he's a guy who could win you any given week with how this offense is kind of built and the extension that he got and just how much he's being paid. He's going to have a huge role in this offense. And I think he could win you any given week. And because of that, give me that upside as my wide receiver too.
So I'm on the board here, and I'm looking to fill out my second wide receiver spot. And I'm struggling because I really like these 3 guys that are here in a row, and you can see them in the bottom left of the screen here, and that's Chris Godwin, Brandon Cooks, and Michael Thomas. And I even like I just happen to see his name. I like Amon-Ra St. Brown a lot as well. And I'm sort of conflicted because Michael Thomas and Chris Godwin have a lot of uncertainty built in with him, whereas Brandon Cooks is locked and loaded. He's going to be what he's going to be, and you don't really have to worry about him much. But at the same time, I think Chris Godwin and Michael Thomas have a much higher ceiling than a Brandon Cooks does. So I think I'm going to shoot for the stars here with this pick, and I'm going to go with Michael Thomas, who we finally saw back practicing again and healthy at Saints camp. And if he's even a fraction of his old self, he's going to be a top 20 receiver for me, and I'll be really, really happy with that. And on the turn, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is with my guy here, and I'm going to go ahead and take Jalen Hurts. It's kind of rare for me to go early QB and early tight end, but in this situation, the price was right, and I love getting Hurts here. So I am very happy with this start so far. Let's keep it rolling.
You're looking good, dude. I'm sitting here, and this is kind of the area. Let's see. There's three quarterbacks that have gone in the past 5-7 picks. And this is typically, if I didn't have Josh Allen, this is typically where I'd start being like, all right, let's prepare for a quarterback. Whether that be like a Russell Wilson, maybe a Dak, and just kind of like being prepared, eyeing up each team, who needs a quarterback still, who's going where, how long I might have until I need a quarterback. But since I have Josh Allen, I'm not worried about that. So I have the luxury of being able to go elsewhere. And let's see, I'm filling out my flex and bench right now. So because of that, taking AJ Dillon, taking a guy who we've seen reports that he is the 1B to this offense, that there is no RB1, there's no RB2. It is strictly a 1A, 1B type of situation in Green Bay this season. And in the 6th round, give me that. In an offense that's going to be looking for any type of talent to play any given week, Dillon's going to be on the field a lot, and I'm happy.
Yeah, I really do like that pick too. Solid running back, kind of the last one there that you would feel semi-confident in, or fully confident in rather, playing in that flex spot any given week. If you had to throw him in here and there, I feel like he just has his floor went up a little bit, so he's a lot safer And obviously his ceiling is through the moon still, as we saw last year. So, Zach, as well, you got to make sure your next receiver's name is Mike. You have to complete the trifecta of Mike's there.
I do. I got to look and see who I got to target here.
Yeah, sadly, Mike Williams went a little bit earlier than you. That would have
Yeah.
been perfect. So yeah,
Sorry.
I am on the clock here, and I got 3 backs, 2 receivers. I'm gonna pivot back to receiver. I am keeping in mind what Kyle said as well. This is right around the point where I would start looking QB. I would be looking for potential stacks, anything I could really find to give me that edge there. At this point in the draft, for me, I'm looking that I have J. Jeff and I have Deontay. I really don't want to stack Deontay, especially if there is going to be a quarterback change, which I don't think there will be, if anything, towards the end of the year in Pittsburgh. But at this point, I am looking Kirk Cousins late, and I think I just timed out. Well, you know what? That was actually going to be my receiver anyways that I was going to take, so that works out there. Oh, and I forgot.
Oh,
I'm
you're
still
on auto pick.
Yep. All right. So yeah, for that Kareem pick there, most likely I would have not went running back again. At that point, I had all my flexes filled out. At that point, I probably would have looked QB such as like Russ or Tom Brady, in that instance. But what can you do? Sleeper doesn't like it.
Learn your lesson to the viewers: don't time out. Sleeper hates that, and your team will hate that. Make your
Yes.
picks on time. Don't. I mean, I've timed out here, but I took the guy I wanted. And actually, I'm gonna stack him. Gabe Davis,
Nice.
second receiver in Buffalo. You can't go wrong. I think he's gonna catch a ton of touchdowns this season. And what's not to love about that? He's gonna have a good year. And for my second flexed spot, yeah, come on, that's easy.
So the only logical pick for me here is actually Michael Gallup, because he's the
Yes.
only other guy named Michael that I could come across. So
Yes.
no, I'm joking. With this pick, I'm going to add some running back depth to my team. I started off with 2 really great running backs, and I hope that I don't ever have to bench them. You know, I'm locking and loading them. But I'm going to add on Rashad Penny here, who is now the de facto number 1 in Seattle after Ken Walker had that hernia. That could sideline him for the first week or maybe a couple weeks going into the season. I just also want to mention Dallas Goedert sitting there as well. And it did slightly cross my mind to pick him and flex Dallas Goedert because I've heard nothing but good news coming out of camp about him. But he's just not in that tier of tight end where I would still feel comfortable doing that. I think that tier ends after, I would say, maybe TJ Hawkinson, I think, is about the last guy I would feel comfortable flexing. But where Hawkinson is going, you still have guys like Darnell Mooney, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Juju, that I would feel a lot better with flexing instead of a tight end. So just my little piece there. My second pick is also going to be a running back. I'm going to stick with the upside, and I'm going to go with Chase Edmonds, another guy who is the starter in his offense. I love what he's going to bring to that Miami offense, and it's no coincidence that Mike McDaniel handpicked him to be the running back in Miami. So I look for him to have a huge workload this year, and hopefully he can slide in as my flex.
Love it. Yeah. Oh, Chase Edmonds this year, I feel like you took probably the 2 best values at running back, at least in this range. They're 2 guys who are going to get. They're going to get a good workload. They're going. I mean, you're right. Edmonds, he loved the role. They loved him, and it seems like a match made in heaven where he went in Miami. And then Penny, I mean, Kenneth Walker went before him, and which is kind of surprising considering we don't know the timetable on Walker's return still. But either way,
that won't be happening.
Yeah.
Well, and I think people are just with Ken Walker. People are hoping that he's going to turn into a rookie smash and he's going to be a guy down the road. But really, I don't see any reason to believe that until Rashad Penny gives you a reason not to believe that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it stinks that you kind of have to wait to get that. But it's tricky. I feel like get the healthy back is kind of always my
Mm-hmm.
vibe in these drafts. Is if there's one healthy back, take him. But all right, I'm up, and I'm gonna take a receiver that I think is being heavily undervalued, considering he finished last year as the wide receiver 11. Hunter Renfro. All week we've seen reports and even just Devontae Adams just basically saying him and Hunter Renfro are just cooking defenses because how can you cover both? I mean, I don't. I'm blanking on who talked about it, but I think it was a Charger. Somebody was talking about basically how Hunter Renfro is one of the top route runners in the league.
Oh, it was Derwin James.
Yeah, and everybody was like Hunter Renfro. But man, it's one of those things you watch this guy play, and this man can just run routes around anybody. And how is he not going to get open in an offense that is really going to pass a lot this season? I think they're going to be in a lot of high scoring games, and I think Renfro is going to have still his solid target share. And I'm biting. I'm taking him, especially as my first bench player. That why not? I think he's going to have a solid floor this year with some very good PPR uptick. So I'm taking him.
Yeah, not a bad pick at all there. That's a guy that's freakishly talented, great team. They obviously got a lot of guys to throw the football around, but he's about one injury or just basically one game script away from having that boom week again. So I think he'll be a consistent flex if you had to throw him in week to week. I don't think he's going anywhere in that offense. For me as well, I was looking at Renfro for my pick. I'm going to go back to receiver here. I'm going to go with Brandon Iuik. I really love his spot there. He's got a lot of great things being said about him and his relationship with Trey Lance right now. So I think he does take a nice little leap from what he did last year. If everybody remembers, he kind of started the year with a little bit of nonsense going on with the coaches and his off the field activity and stuff like that. So no distractions this year. Hopefully, if he plays a full 17, I definitely expect him to be right in that wide receiver 3-4 range, which is good enough for me coming off of my bench with a few boom weeks ahead of him. So I love that there. At this point, I also don't have a tight end, so I'm going to snag Fryermuth here. I liked a few of those tight ends there. I kind of had them all ranked pretty close, but I like Patty. So I'm going to go ahead and snag my tight end, and I'm still waiting on that quarterback here for this later rounds.
Yeah, I just got sniped. I was also going to go tight end, but I wanted Knox to pair with Josh Allen, but I guess I can't. I can't have them all. I can't get both Knox and Davis to match with my Josh Allen, and I understand that, but I was hoping he'd make it. So I've got to pivot, and I'm going to pivot to a running back who everybody kind of hates just because he is the RB2 that is going to have a bigger workload than he needs. That's Melvin Gordon. I feel like Melvin Gordon is just kind of taking a backseat because everybody is just waiting for him to leave the Broncos or just have a lesser role in this offense. But the reality is he is going to have a role. I think the reports are still like a 60-40 timeshare. And who knows? Gordon will probably get a good chunk of the goal line work. And I think as my RB4 and my second bench player, I'm taking that upswing because if anything, he becomes the most valuable handcuff. And I like him. I think Mike and I did a little mini chat a few weeks ago about RB handcuffs and our strategies with them. But I like Gordon, especially as a bench player. He's not a bad pick because any given week he could have a solid week, and you can kind of start him if you really need to.
So coming back to me here, I really want to take a wide receiver, but there's two running backs that are really catching my eye at this point, and that's Ramondre Stevenson and Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce has become everyone's sweetheart this offseason because he's won the Texans starting job. He looks to be a better running back than I think the Texans thought they were getting. So I'm going to go ahead and take Pierce with my first pick. Again, that's another late round starter. One of my favorite things with especially all of the mocks that I've been doing, one of my favorite things is if I go receiver heavy early, I love picking up guys like this in the late rounds because they're all starters in their offenses. So I love getting Pierce here, and I'm actually going to take Christian Kirk as my second pick. He is there's an old saying that Mike I'm blanking on his last name. Mike from the or I'm sorry, not Mike. Jason from the Fantasy Footballers always says, Jason Moore, and he says, follow the money. You know, wherever the money is where good things are going to come. And they're paying Christian Kirk $37 million this year. So he has to be a part of the offense. There's no way that they're going to spend that much and never use him. So I like Christian Kirk here. He's unfortunately my wide receiver 3. I kind of overlooked that with my Penny and Edmonds picks back to back, but I just like their value too much. So I'm good with getting Kirk as my 3, though.
Not too shabby. Yeah, it's especially in these later rounds, and you're just kind of not making dart throws, but you're making the choices of guys who are hopefully going to have a big role in their offense, and you kind of want to follow the money. Like Kirk, I mean, he is kind of forced to have a huge role in the offense, or they wouldn't have paid him and ruined the whole wide receiver market. But I like Kirk, especially. I mean, you took him as your 3. That's a little tricky, but I think that's the best player to have in this range. That's kind of available to you. And I'm on the clock, and I'm gonna take my tight end. I think you guys talked about this a few weeks ago. Late tight end. It's basically my strategy is either taking one of the big 3 or 4 tight ends early, or waiting until these late rounds and kind of taking these tight end 12, like the tight end 10 through 12 kind of guys. And that I think Komet is the perfect example of guys I'm taking this late. He is going to be second in targets in this offense unless he really outshines Darnell Mooney or Justin Fields doesn't have time to throw to anyone else.
Which is a real possibility.
Oh, that Bears offensive line just looks bad. It's going to be a rough offense, but I mean, Komet's going to get his targets. I think he's going to be a great player.
Yeah, and Kyle, you robbed me there. Not gonna lie, it hurts.
You're going to take 2 tight ends?
I was. So I got to get used to being sniped, I guess. It'll prepare me for this weekend. But yeah, Pat is in that range for me that if I am going tight end late like that, I could have probably even gone Pat. I would say maybe in the 10th, or if Pat went Komet in the 10th. But those guys are in my tier where I'm not comfortable with just having one tight end on my roster. So I would have doubled up there. I would have went Komet. At this point, looking ahead of me, Team 1 and Team 2 both have quarterbacks, and I don't. So I have a feeling one of them is going to draft a backup because it's sleeper, and I don't want to miss out. So I'm going to go ahead and take Kirk. I do have my stack now, him and Jefferson. And I feel like that's one of the more underrated stacks in this draft, especially when you're getting Cousins in the 10th round and later, as he's been such a consistent quarterback throughout the years. He's now in a pass-first offense. So all the signs are pointing towards him having a smash year. And why not pair him up with J. Jeff? So at this point, I have a lot of flexes on my team. I got my stack. I did want that tight end, so I am going for the scraps now. And I'm actually going to take Hunter Henry here. Just get my second tight end. I'll feel a lot more confident now going in week to week. I could play the matchup, play the hot hand, basically, and hopefully don't have to touch the waiver wire too much for that. So I think I set myself up in a good position here with one pick left in our mini draft here.
All right. I'm eyeing a guy. He's going to be my 1, 2, 3, 4, my RB5, and it's the player that reports are it's going to be a split backfield. And it might be annoying for the other running back, but for this guy this late, it's going to be a huge value. Darrell Henderson, all reports, and even I think McVay has come out and said that this backfield is going to be a split backfield, which stinks for Akers. I know a lot of people are amped for him to finally get back on the field, have a full off season of recovery. But I mean, apparently Henderson is kind of killing it. And because of that, McVay has kind of changed his whole his whole idea of how to use a running back. And I think probably after they ran Gurley to the ground, they were like, all right, let's switch this up. Maybe we can use more than one guy. So Henderson, I mean, in the 11th round, is an insane value to me because he's going to have a role. He's going to be used, and he's being taken behind a ton of guys that probably won't see the field unless the guy in front of them gets injured.
Just to add on to that, Kyle, Darrell Henderson single-handedly carried me to a playoff berth last year until he got hurt in the late season, and I lost him. And then I actually flip-flopped to I'm going to blank on it. The Chiefs' backup running back last year was Damian Williams, I think.
Last year, I think it was.
Daryl?
I think it was
Damian
was a
Bears.
A Bear, yeah. So it was Darrell Williams, I think.
Darryl, yeah.
Yeah, that's who I switched over to then in the late season, and he helped me win the championship. So, with my pick here, I'm looking to add receiver depth, and one guy stands out above the rest. I could make the Michael joke again since he's sitting here again, but I'm not going to. I'm going to look at Rondale Moore, and that's going to be my first pick because he is stepping into a massive amount of vacated targets where we're going to see DeAndre Hopkins out for the first 6 games. Christian Kirk is gone. So essentially, it's just going to be AJ Green, Rondale Moore, and Zach Ertz. So if anything, I feel like that's also a word of warning towards Kyler Murray because that's pretty rough for the first 6 games to have just those 3 guys. So that worries me a little bit, which is why I haven't been drafting much of Kyler Murray this season. But I'm looking here with my second pick. I like some of the running backs that are out here. I see Tyler Algier. I see Kenneth Gainwell. And even Brian Robinson, who's been rising on people's draft boards. But I'm going to reach a little bit here. Actually, it's a pretty good amount here. And I'm going to go down and I'm going to take a guy that I think is going to step into the Adam Thielen role this year, and that's KJ Osborne. I think he has potential to be, a high touchdown guy like we've seen Adam Thielen has been in the past, where he's a big red zone threat. And we just see Thielen getting hurt over and over and over again. So I could see KJ Osborne taking that step up and becoming the 2 in this offense with Adam Thielen fading to become the 3.
Man, I love KJ Osborne. He's been rising up my ranks a little bit. Just because I mean, reports are he's killing it. He looks fantastic this year, and in an offense, it's going to be passing a lot more than they used to. Why not get the guy who is kind of electric next to Justin Jefferson? So I like the pick, and I'm up. And last round, you kind of take I like to take a shot on a guy that I'm just like, oh, this is probably somebody I would have picked up anyways. For a wide receiver that I haven't taken in a few rounds, DJ Chark. And honestly, I think he has the potential. He's on an offense. I mean, the Lions, they're not going to be fantastic, but I think they're going to be a step up from what they were last year. And again, they signed Chark this offseason, so it's not like he's going to be nobody. And I think it's going to be him and Amon-Ra St. Brown, at least early in the season, just being a solid duo for Goff to throw his passes to. So because of that, I'm taking Chark. I like his mini potential back here at this end of the draft.
I like it. I was also going for some receiver upside with my pick as you both went. I was looking at Gallup. The news came out that he is not going to be on the PUP list to start the year, which means that we're expecting at the worst a week 3 start from Gallup. And that's just huge news. He was always going to be the number 2. If you've been following our mocks for everybody watching, we have been drafting Jalen Tolbert pretty high. But over the recent weeks, Tolbert is not even the 3 on the team behind Gallup. At this point, there's other guys on that Dallas depth chart that have kind of taken over that role based off of what everybody's saying there. So I firmly believe that Gallup is going to be a strong number 2 option in this league on the outside. He's that big play guy that kind of can stretch the field and stuff like that. So that's the guy I was looking for there. I think that's an absolute steal. this late, especially if he's only going to miss a game or two. But I'm going to pivot. I'm still going to go receiver, and I'm going to get the number one that I think is going to be in New England, and that's Devontae Parker. And that's how I'm going to close out my draft here.
Love it. Love it. Great draft, fellas. Zach, I love your team up until Hurts. I mean, even after that is fantastic. But I think that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that 6-round start is beautiful. Oh, did we lose Zach?
Sorry, I'm here. Yeah, sorry, you lost me. I appreciate that. And looking back, and again, this is what mocks are for. I do kind of regret going back to back running back with Penny and Edmonds. I think I would have I would have liked my team a lot better had I taken any of those receivers that went in that same round as Edmonds there. Burks, Smith, Renfro, Elijah Moore, Iuik, and even Alan Lazard. I like all of those guys a lot. I think I would have liked my team better had I gone with one of them instead, but live and learn.
Mike, what was your pick a team that you like the most?
Oof.
Not just ours, any of them, because I know you like to just pick from us.
Yeah. That is
it team 8 with that 0 RB strategy?
It's definitely not. I could cancel them out. Ken Walker and James Cook as your first running backs will get you last place in any league. Or close to it, competing for it. So, if anything, I could say that I like the structure of Team 4. How they kind of went with like the almost hero running back strategy. That's a little tricky there. You know, Derrick Henry's nice to start it off. I probably would have went some different receivers in those slots, but I do like the structure. And then coming back to running backs in the 5th and 6th, and then quarterback, tight end. Team 4 kind of filled out like a starting lineup before anything, and I like that. It's a traditional way to play fantasy. I probably would have taken some different guys, but I do like the structure. Other than that, I would say my favorite team on the board is probably Team 2. You actually have the hero running back strategy with McCaffrey, Damian Harris, and Breece Hall just fighting for that number 2 spot. And then Keenan Allen, Adam Thielen, and then Lazard and Tony fighting for that extra flex spot with Lamar and Andrews. That's a dangerous team right there. Very, very dangerous. So that's probably my favorite team is Team 2.
Mike, I'm gonna have to stop you. Russell Wilson wants to know if he should drop the Broncos D and pick up the Bills D.
Listen, Russ, don't worry about that. I got some other advice for you, Russ. You got to pick it up, bro. You got to pick it up this year. You know, sloppy past few years. You're embarrassing yourself. You're embarrassing future. I think you got to step it up. And I think you got to go to work with Sutton and Judy this year. No excuses, bro. But
no, in all honesty, I think you should. I think the Bills D are the top defense this year.
I was just about to say yes, definitely go grab the Bills D.
I think this season they are the top ranked DST. So I would do that. I'd drop the Broncos, pick up some Bills. So that's a definite thumbs up. Take advantage of that while you can. All right, fellas. Well, it's a beautiful mock. I like how this looks. And Zach, I hope you don't have a good draft this weekend. You too, Mike.
You know, likewise.
Good luck to have bad luck.
All right, fellas. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for drafting with me. And if you don't know us, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at First Seed Fantasy on Instagram, at First Seed Sports on Twitter. And I think our names, I'm at Kyle Krajewski on Twitter. Mike is mdelcorso_18. Did I get that right?
Just underscore.
Oh, underscore. No more 18. And then Zach is Z Cole Fantasy. Follow us. Tune in. We'll probably mock again next week, either Wednesday or Thursday morning, but we'll keep you posted on the socials. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't say Use code first seed on Underdog, get 100% deposit match. So you put in up to $100, you get $100 back, and you get to play with double the money, have some fun. It's a blast. We all love it. But thank you again for tuning in, and good morning, guys.
All right. Good morning. Have a great rest of your day, guys.